Welcome to the inaugural episode of the Bit Beacon broadcast. Your hosts are myself, Taylor, also known as Kodaks, and we've got
I'm Ravenheart, Rick for short.
And we're here to just talk about games and revive our long dormant website via a podcast.
Yep.
If you've ever visited the Bit Beacon, maybe if you were on Go Nintendo, you might remember us. We used to go to a lot of events. We still go to a lot of events. We just stopped writing about them.
Yeah, we still have the website. We've kept it alive. We just haven't updated it or done anything with it.
I've been paying that $6.99 every year for the past decade.
It's been, 8 years?
And not since 2014. Yeah, that's almost a decade.
Yeah.
So the Bit Beacon, you might be wondering what that is. It was just a website that we founded back in 2011. Is that right?
I think, was it 2000? No, you're right.
Whenever you moved back from
it was
Idaho.
2011.
Yeah. And we just wrote about events that we went to, things that we saw, online, and just news articles, breaking news. We really thought maybe we could break into the gaming blog industry, but it proved to be more challenging than we anticipated.
We still have a lot of really good memories from those days, though. We went to a lot of events, a lot of launch parties, a lot of exclusive stuff. We met a lot of developers and really cool people from the games industry.
Yeah, I remember we'd bring back swag from like PAX and things, and we would do giveaways, and we had a small but loyal following. It was pretty awesome. I think 2014 was a big year for both of us.
Yeah.
I think we both started new relationships, and we just got busy.
Yeah. Day jobs and other projects and stuff like that.
Definitely. So we're just gonna start off by talking about what we're playing lately, what we're buying, and for myself personally, I've been playing a lot of the new Pokemon DLC that just came out, the Teal Mask, Part 1 of Scarlet and Violet's DLC.
That's all I'm playing is Scarlet, but I haven't gotten to the DLC yet, even though I have it, because since the update, it seems like all the mass outbreaks are all new for me, and every time I turn it on, there's like 3 new mass outbreaks that I've never even seen in my game.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. There seems to be way more mass outbreaks in the main region of Paldea. It used to be that there was like 3 or 4 outbreaks a day, and now it seems like there's like 7 or 8, and I'm seeing like a much wider variety of outbreaks. And then on top of that, you have outbreaks in the new area of the DLC. I think it's Kitakami, but I'm probably mispronouncing that.
I think that's right. That sounds right.
Yeah.
But it's not just more outbreaks. It's outbreaks that, you're used to seeing the same 15 cycled over and over. And now there's actually Pokemon I haven't seen an outbreak for at all for the duration of the game. So I get stuck doing that, and by the time I do 3 outbreaks and get my shinies, I'm ready to stop playing.
Yeah. I mean, I think you just gotta ignore the outbreaks for once, and you just gotta.
That's tough when there's something you need.
Head to school and meet some new characters. So, in case you're wondering what we're talking about, an outbreak is when a particular Pokemon is featured heavily in a certain area, and there are special mechanics in the game in Scarlet and Violet that allow you to defeat so many of these Pokemon and at the same time increase your chances of encountering a shiny Pokemon up to a certain point.
It's a mechanic that got started in Legends Arceus, but they carried it over into Scarlet and Violet and did it slightly differently. And shinies have not been this accessible at all for the entire history of Pokemon.
Yeah, something you might learn about Rick and myself is that we're kind of Poke freaks.
Yeah,
and,
just a bit.
Obsessed with capturing all the shiny Pokemon.
I almost want to say I'm playing Pokemon Home in a way, because I'm turning Black version on every now and again, because I finished the Elite Four, but I need to get through the rest of the game so that I can transfer a bunch of stuff that I have stuck before Bank shuts down.
Yeah, that could be any day now. I mean, thankfully they made it still available after the 3DS eShop's closure, but only if you downloaded it prior, and even then you had to spend at least $5 to gain access to the Poke Transporter function.
Yeah, that's
If
right.
someone tried to, if never used it, but tried to use Poke Transporter now, they would encounter an error, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, that stinks. Also, it's free now, like no
Yes.
subscription, so
Yeah.
having bank is nice if you got in.
Yep. What else am I? What are you playing aside from
Scarlet and
just
Violet.
Scarlet and
That's
Violet?
it.
Okay, well I'm still I know you don't. I know you judge me a little bit for this, but I play Genshin Impact
Uh,
every single day. And I know
yep.
people give me a funny face when they hear me say that, but I don't know, man. I love this game. I love its world. I love its characters. I mean, it has its problems. Yes, it's a gotcha game, and yes, it's predatory.
Yep.
But I have never seen any game of this kind of scale and scope that is Genshin Impact. Like the amount every 6 weeks there is a free update, and almost every single one of those updates adds like a significant like new area and like region to explore. There's the big region update that happens about once a year, but within that year, in between major regions, they continue to add massive new like chunks of landmass or even underwater now to explore, and it's just so polished. I really have a good time with it. I'm definitely addicted.
Yeah.
It's got its hooks in me
Well,
hard.
that's what that game is for. It's to get addicted to.
Right. I mean, I think there are ways you can play the game and spend very little or even not at all. But I know not everybody has the. I don't want to claim I'm superior to anybody, but I know some people are more susceptible to spending on those kinds of games, spending money they don't have, and so I do think that's concerning. And so, I mean, I'm grateful for the players that do have a lot of money and do want to fund the game for me
Yeah,
effectively.
pretty much.
So thanks to those people out there, but I just hope that they actually do have the money and they're not emptying their pockets.
Do you feel at all like that game is at all designed, game design wise, around gotcha mechanics and getting you to
Um,
spend?
there's definitely a FOMO aspect to it, where you're worried. Like the new characters that get introduced, they're only around for 3 weeks, and then it may be a year before you have the opportunity to spend your currency, whether you earned it for free through the game or whether you spent on it to get that character again. So if you're like a I have to have everything kind of person, yeah, you'll probably spend a lot of money on this game.
Yeah.
But if you're okay with saving your currency, which they are, I don't want to say they're super generous with their premium currency that they give out in game, but you can earn quite a bit. And if you do save and you're patient, you can get like the characters you really do want. But if you want every single character, I don't think there's any other way to do it than to spend significant amounts of money.
Yeah, so it's a bankruptcy trap for completionists.
For sure, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, you have to be okay with not getting everything. Although that
Yeah.
being said, you can fully complete the game's continuous story just using the free characters that you get and the premium currency that you do earn in the game. You can get yourself, the premium characters as well.
Yeah, I don't think I could do it.
Yeah, knowing you, I don't think it would be right for you. You probably, I mean, well, you've been down the Fire Emblem Heroes trap before.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't fall too deep into that, but yeah.
Yeah.
But I also love Fire Emblem as
Yeah.
a franchise. Genshin Impact is kind of like a standalone.
Yeah, it's definitely new. I mean, the company that creates the games, they're creating their own little game verse. They have several games on the market now, and a new one was just recently featured in the State of Play, which we'll get to later. That's coming to PS5 pretty soon. But I'm actually going to the Genshin Impact concert in Los Angeles in November, and I can't wait. The music in that game is, in my opinion, there's no better game music out like right now for any ongoing game or any new game. I think it's unmatched.
Sounds like they gotcha.
No, dude, they got maybe one of the best composers, Yu Peng Chen. You should look his stuff up. It's incredible. I'll have to play some stuff for you later.
All right, yeah.
But amazing, amazing music. It reminds me of. They don't make game music like it anymore. Now all game music is just like ambient noises. Like Genshin Impact still has like music and melody and.
I think I get what you mean. So I think certain publishers and certain developers do go out of their way a lot.
I mean, even the new Zelda games,
yeah, that's true.
The music is great, but there's very little of it, or it only plays during like very key scenes. But to me, Zelda has always been very closely entwined with music.
Yeah, definitely, especially around like the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess and stuff. But
since the origin, really.
Yeah, true.
Even though there wasn't very many tracks, still.
If you to their credit though, if you scored every area of Breath of the Wild, they'd be spending like hundreds of thousands of dollars on music, and that soundtrack would be
That's what I love about Genshin Impact is they have hundreds and thousands of dollars to spend on their music. Yeah. That's what's great about Genshin Impact. They reinvest a huge chunk of that money they're making right back into their games, and it shows. The production values are insane.
That's fine. Yeah. I won't judge you too hard.
So no, you haven't been buying. Oh, you were saying you were buying some stuff, right?
Oh yeah. I will be. Well, first on my list is Final Fantasy 16. I just haven't gotten around to getting it or starting it. I kind of started the demo, but not really. And yeah, that's one thing that's eating at my brain. I need to start Final Fantasy 16. The other one is Mortal Kombat 1. I have to get that soon, or I'm gonna go crazy. And other than that, I'm waiting on the Castlevania collection from Limited Run.
Yeah, I picked that one up too. Did you get any particular edition of that?
Just the one that was available at the time, which was just the base.
Oh, okay. Edition. They had I think they had the standard copy. They had like a classic edition that came in like a Game Boy Advance style box or something like that.
No, I usually don't go for that.
Oh, okay.
I'll go for like hardcore collector's editions that have soundtrack and art book, but when they start getting into making, flavorful boxes and, Super NES styled, right. I'm not going to have it all, so why start?
I picked up the edition that looks like, the NES Konami silver boxes that they used to do?
Yeah.
They had those like really nice lines and kind of like a silver foil with like the key art in the middle.
Yeah.
Limited Run's been doing that for like every single Konami release that they've been doing. And they're pretty simple. They come with the game, usually a steelbook, a soundtrack, and maybe a poster or something like that. And I think it came with all of the alternate covers that they put out for the anniversary collection.
That stuff is really cool. I just don't have the money to be.
Yeah,
I'd rather just have the games.
If you can only have one thing, definitely the game is more important.
Yeah.
I do think maybe this is a topic for another day, that some of these limited run, not just limited run, but other limited editions just come with so much superfluous stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, it's like an eraser, a key, like a keychain, a slinky, I don't really, it just seems like they're trying to find things and they're just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what they can manufacture fast enough to include.
Yeah, you basically just described why I don't go for that stuff anymore. Yeah. I think when they first started doing stuff like that, I thought it was cool and new and probably bought a couple, but after that, I just fell off with that. I'd rather buy more games with that money than fewer games with a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. I'm definitely in agreement with you. I've had to scale back my purchasing habits for sure. Like I said, I do occasionally spring for like the deluxe edition that's like maybe, $10, $15, $20 more. Mm-hmm. Just because I do appreciate like if there's a little art book or a soundtrack or even a steelbook. I do enjoy steelbooks, and we can have a discussion about steelbooks, and we should.
We're getting a lot of ideas.
So yeah, we'll have to add that one to the data bank.
Yep.
But you were talking about Final Fantasy 16. We both attended the Final Fantasy 16 launch event,
which was awesome.
Back in, God, was that May or June?
Oh, I'd have to look it up.
It was the one held in Los Angeles. It was the pre-launch event, I should say.
Yes.
It came out like 2 weeks before.
Exactly 2 weeks before the game came out.
Yeah, it was strange timing, but it was pretty damn cool.
It was really awesome. The president, the CEO of Square Enix was there giving a speech on stage live. He didn't have to do that, but he was there from Japan.
Yeah, and he was like super passionate. And just
very
talking
passionate
about like how Final Fantasy was a big part of his childhood, and he was like honored to be like leading the company now, responsible for it. He's brand new as well. I think he just took over this role earlier this year, and I know Square Enix is kind of in I wouldn't say precarious situation, but they've definitely maybe been fumbling financially a little bit. They've had some flops and some just missteps maybe.
Yeah, I mean, like any company, I'm a big fanboy, obviously, of Square Enix, so I'm gonna, fan for them for a second. But they, I think like any publisher, they're looking at different ways that they can make a mark or get something started. Like they just, not too long ago, they divested a bunch of money into blockchain technology and sold some of their IPs to do it. I don't know whether at this point whether that was a good decision or not.
Yeah.
They haven't seemed to have not done anything with that just yet.
Yeah.
But that's how Square Enix, they're innovative. They'll take chances, they'll take risks. They'll invest in something that they see at the time and think is maybe a good idea down the road.
Yeah.
And so they do make mistakes for sure, but I think it comes from a place of just wanting to innovate and not stay static and doing the same thing and just that.
Right. Well, speaking of Square Enix, this brings up a topic that I'm passionate about, and it's physical versus digital.
Yep.
Where do you lie? Or do you like to buy all your games digitally for the convenience? Are you a physical games collector? I mean, Rick and I think we definitely...
This is going to be very biased. Like, extremely biased.
And I'll try to play devil's advocate a little bit and, to stand up for the convenience people as much as I can. But, yeah, we're very much so physical game collectors.
Yes.
I don't feel like I truly own the game personally,
yes,
and maybe that's just because we're older. Unless it's in my hands,
Exactly. And also, we see things like Google Stadia shutting down, and you bought a bunch of games for Google Stadia, and now they're gone. And it turns out you never owned them to begin with.
Well, to be fair, Google Stadia did refund everybody who purchased anything on their platform.
That's true, but that
Google can afford to do that. Not every company can,
That's
Booyah and what was it? On Live. Yeah, streaming games.
We're dating ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Online was very big back in like 2011, 2012. It was the future of gaming, and to some extent, maybe they really were the future.
They just spent all their money on PR and beach balls and all kinds of other
giving away free plastic boxes.
But when it comes to consoles, games on consoles, digital games on consoles, I don't feel like you own it. I feel like that can be taken away. You could be locked out of your console for what the console holder perceives as bad behavior or whatever, and you no longer have games that you believed you owned.
That's 100% true. If you buy all your games digitally on Sony PlayStation and your PlayStation gets hacked and this person does something bad on your account, they start spamming people bad messages or something, or your brother gets a hold of it and he starts cursing up a storm in Call of Duty, your account could be banned permanently. Especially if you've had infractions before, they have a pretty strict, we'll forgive you once, give you a temp ban or something, but multiple times you're out. And all your purchases, they're all gone.
They're all
gone. You won't be able
gone.
to play anything. They can even go so far as to ban your console.
Yeah.
From playing any online games.
Didn't Nintendo have bricking capabilities on something? I can't remember what
I'm
it was.
sure they still do. I don't know that they have a way to send like a smart bomb to your Switch and nuke it.
Yeah, right.
But they can definitely ban you from the eShop and from playing your digital titles. And that's all three of the major, even Steam, Epic, you're buying a license when you play these games. You're not actually buying the game.
I think on PC it might be a little bit different when you actually download the title. Sure. You might lose your Steam account, but if you have the title on your desktop, maybe not Steam because that is through a player, but itch.io.
Yeah, if you don't have to use the launcher to launch the game, then you could probably access it. But if it does some kind of server check with Steam servers, then you might be out of luck.
Exactly.
Now, not to say that we're a bunch of internet miscreants and we're going around, saying horrible things online and getting our accounts banned. I mean, I do have some digital games for sure. Sometimes you don't have a choice, or sometimes something's on sale.
It's not released physical, then you have to play digitally.
Yeah.
Which really stinks when you're in that situation.
Sometimes there are ways around that, and we'll get there.
But the other thing I was going to mention, the other pro and con type bullet point here is game developers and famous people and voice actors, etc., artists, character designers, game designers, etc., cannot autograph your digital file on your console. But if you have the game physical, you can do stuff like that. And that's something we're very passionate about. We love going to these events. We love meeting who, in our eyes, are celebrities and heroes and getting them their autographs on our games. And, wouldn't be able to do that when everything's digital.
Yeah, I mean, I can't count the number of times I've had to scramble to buy a game, find a game real quick when some event is all of a sudden announced and they say who's going to be there, and it's like, crap, I don't have anything in my collection, and I got to go out and get it. And, I mean, that might sound not fun.
Right.
But for me, it's fun. I love hunting for video games. Thankfully, we live in an area where we have a lot of options. For stuff like that. I know some people do live in maybe more rural locations where physical games are harder to come by. They got to drive 2 hours to get to their Walmart or their Target, and so it just makes more sense to download the game from home.
Also, too, this is probably going to only resonate with older gamers, but the association video games have with yard sales and garage sales and swap meets, that's going to be dead when everything's digital. You won't be able to go treasure hunting anymore.
Right.
Everything's going to be the same price for a limited amount of time before it's gone forever.
Yeah.
And that's scary.
There are some trends that do make me hopeful that physical won't ever be totally eradicated. And that's stuff like vinyl music sales.
Right.
Vinyl is now the number one format for purchasing physical music.
That's true.
Above CD, not above cassette.
I've seen some, I don't know if they're record labels or the band or what, but I've seen some come out with 8-track copies, versions of their...
Yeah, definitely.
Of their albums.
What's old is new again.
Exactly.
And, I think there's a little bit of a digital revolt. People
I hope so.
Miss the analog days a little bit.
I hope that's true. I think with the resurgence of retro games and, maybe the bubble in retro game prices and stuff had a silver lining a little bit because it made that stuff, it put it in the, the cultural zeitgeist again, in a way. And because of that, maybe physical will live a little bit longer. But you're right about vinyl and stuff like that. I hope that there's a revolt against the whole digital revolution. I hope that maybe even if it's just one console holder that comes along and stays physical and the others go digital. That would be better than nothing.
Well, speaking of console holders, last week Microsoft uploaded a bunch of documents to a website that was public facing that they shouldn't have, and it revealed their plans for a mid-gen refresh of the Xbox Series X. Code name, or internal name I should say, Brooklyn. It is a Series X. It's got a cylindrical appearance, and it does not have a disk drive whatsoever. Which means if they're eliminating the original Xbox Series X, then that means the only two consoles on the market are the new Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S, and both of them do not have a disk drive.
Right. So my thoughts on this are that twofold. First of all, we know that the console holders want to go digital. There's no question. They've stated it. They've made it known. They're saying it with their own products. And the other thing is, these are plans. Plans change. But yeah, it's very obvious that their intention is to go digital.
Yeah, Xbox, according to the documents, was targeting a 2025, I think late 2025 launch for this new Series X. Now, they may see a lot of feedback now thanks to this accidental upload, where they could maybe take that into consideration and maybe see that people aren't happy about that. Now, I will say, out of the three console holders, Xbox is the most likely to go all digital.
Yes.
With Game Pass, which is what they want every single person with an Xbox to subscribe to,
right,
you can download dozens and dozens and dozens, maybe hundreds, if not over 1,000 games on demand now.
Right.
And play them at your leisure for, I don't know what the price is now, but it's less than $20 a month, I believe. And that is, it's a tempting offer, to be sure.
Oh, definitely.
Personally, I would get like choice paralysis from something like that.
In a way, it's kind of silly not to, in a way, unless you're trying to revolt against digital or something by boycotting it. It would not make sense to not get that.
Right. What better way than to force you into Game Pass than to not give you an option to buy? You could say, well, here's this $60 game you can buy on the digital storefront, or you could pay $15.99 right now and play it for free, essentially.
Right.
But they want that charge to go from now until the time you're dead, until after you're dead, and then your credit card finally expires or it gets canceled.
Right. That's where they're thinking.
That's their long game. Now, for some people, that's great. Game Pass is exactly... Maybe you game on a budget. Maybe you can only afford $20 a month to play games. And if that's your case, that's a great freaking deal, man. Especially if you're heavily invested into the Microsoft ecosystem. You enjoy the kinds of games that they publish. I can't fault anybody for subscribing to that. I would just hate to see Xbox push out, the reason I bought a Series X, which is my first Xbox since the original Xbox, was because it had a disc drive and because there's backwards compatibility with a lot of games. And I've missed out on multiple generations of Xboxes, so I'm excited to go back through their history of quality titles. Most of the really good Xbox games are backwards compatible. There are some exceptions.
I'm really surprised they did that, to be honest with you. That's a very pro-physical move.
It is. You can literally just insert your old Xbox disc or Xbox 360 disc, and it'll download an upscaled, nicer version of the classic game.
That's awesome.
And so it's so weird to see them now all of a sudden make this
just
180.
Get rid of it. It's like they can't make up their mind. I know this is off topic from the physical versus digital thing, but I didn't actually see the Xbox leak. Did you see if there was anything about specs for that system?
It's just I think it's an Xbox Series X, same exact price, made to be more compact, more energy efficient.
Not like
it's
heavier.
Not beefier. It's not like a Project Scorpio.
Okay.
All over again. So that's different from what Sony is rumored to be doing. They'll be introducing like a PS5 Pro. But I mean, that's all hearsay until either it leaks or, they announce it.
Right.
And that probably, I don't even know if it would be next year. I do think this gen is going to be really long.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be really long.
I think so. The PS5 in particular has a long way to go with lifespan.
Yeah.
There hasn't been any, you know what I mean. Like,
yeah, I feel like we're just now starting to get to like exclusive next gen or current gen games now.
Right, exactly.
I still want to say next gen because publishers are having a really hard time giving up PS4 and Xbox.
It's easy to develop for.
Yeah.
Like
they've already been developing for it. It already has 100 million people that own one,
The tools are out, yeah. It's already installed into the gaming population.
And then, you have the Nintendo Switch, which is using very dated internals.
Mm-hmm.
And so if people are developing cross-gen games, they're doing a Switch version, a PS4 version.
Right.
There's so many SKUs to develop for right now.
It's a lot. And then if you release on PC, you have so many options there with different ways to go. Most go to Steam, but some also release on other launchers, Discord and Humble, and in the case of indies.
That's a good point. I mean, if you're a PC gamer, you have very little choice but to buy digital.
Yes.
And
but if you're a PC gamer, you probably are pro digital.
Right. Definitely. And I definitely, installing a game from I mean, I remember installing World of Warcraft. It came with like 10 freaking discs.
Right.
That I had to put in one at a time.
Yep.
And it was pretty painful.
It was inconvenient, but looking back, it was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'll never forget, like, there's all these little, like, while it's installing, all these little, like, lore bits are being displayed on the screen.
Right.
Just the anticipation. It's got, like, background music playing while you're installing
and again, though, you own the game. That's the point. You own it. You can hold it. You can feel it. You can smell it.
Less important with an MMO, which...
Right.
Even you could install WoW from the disc today, but then you'd be prompted to download how many gigs of updates.
But you could say, I own all the files, I own the textures, I own the models, they're all here.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. Maybe I'm sure that doesn't have a practical use, but knowing that you have that, is nice.
Yeah, limited run. They still do big box PC releases, which I think is cool for.
That is cool.
Those old school PC gaming fans.
The companies that are similar to limited run but smaller, they do a lot of PC because I think it's because PC is the cheapest to actually manufacture for.
Right, because they can manufacture it in house if they wanted to.
Right.
They don't need
Signature edition and all those
stuff off to Sony's factories or Microsoft's factories.
Right.
So I had mentioned Square Enix earlier, and I want to talk about Capcom. They both have 2 games that are coming out in the next few months. One really soon. Square Enix has the new Dragon Quest Adventure of Dai game, based on the manga and anime from, I think, the 90s. And there's only a digital release here in the West. Now, there are options to pick up physical copies from websites like Play Asia or Video Games Plus. And there's like an Asia English version as well as like a Japanese version, which has English on cart. And then you have Capcom, who just announced the Ace Attorney 4, 5, 6 collection. Mm-hmm. And for whatever reason, even though the last Ace Attorney collection released in English in North America, in Western territories, in a physical format, sold very well and still holds its price very well, they're doing it digital only. I guess because Ace Attorney 1, 2, 3 collection didn't get a physical release in the US, so maybe that's their thinking. But, I mean, it's free money, guys.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, because I'm not buying the eShop version. I'm going to be importing a physical copy.
Yes, physical people will go out of their way to import from another country a game. Not only that, in some cases, purchase a console that can play them. A separate console, a Japanese console. Because that's how passionate we are about actually owning the physical thing. In the case of Ace Attorney, this isn't, like you already said, this isn't the first time that franchise has done that. I think there were 3 titles, or am I wrong?
Oh yeah, a bunch of the 3DS Ace Attorney games.
Right.
I think 4, 5, and 6 were only digital releases.
Right.
Which I remember. I can't remember where we were. I think it was Anime Expo one year, and Capcom was there, and they had. I think it was Ace Attorney 5, was like playable, and I remember they were giving out like some little physical goodies for playing the demo. But no physical game, which is like,
right.
I don't know, man. I never got it, and I get it. They were worried. They don't want to invest in something that they think is a niche series that only a handful of people, and then they expect us to be grateful that it got localized in English and released here at all.
Right. If you think about it, 1, 2, and 3 were on Game Boy Advance in Japan, and they didn't release on Game Boy Advance at all here. But they did put them on DS later. So in a way, it started as a Japanese exclusive franchise.
True.
So I'm not too surprised that there are installments that are Japan only. In a way, I can almost say at least we're getting a digital.
Right.
I
mean, yeah, it is better than nothing.
Right.
I mean, I'm not gonna if I'm a mega Ace Attorney fan, I probably am just grateful that it's releasing in the States at all. Because there are some Ace Attorney games that never released in English, like actual canonical entries, not just the Game Boy Advance versions of 1, 2, and 3.
That's true.
There was a DS game, I can't remember.
I think that's the only one that's true about, but yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
I mean, sure, there's fan translations out there, but it's just not the same as, playing the real thing. And
right, the official translation.
Yeah, I think that's too bad. And this brings up another thing I want to talk about. So we've got 2 things that kind of happen sometimes where a game will be released physically, but it's essentially just like a demo disc, and you have to download like 100 gigs of data. Or the cartridge, you can't even start the game without first downloading an update. So it's like, why did you release a cartridge at all? I know Mortal Kombat 1... actually, that one might be playable just on the base cartridge, but
I think 11 was that way.
Oh, okay. I know Jedi Survivor, the new Star Wars game from Respawn and EA, the PS5, the PS4 version, they launched, on PS5 has like dual layer Blu-ray discs it can read. There's no reason they could not have put the whole game on that disc. It's not that they can't put the whole game on the disc. It's that they don't. They either don't have it done and are going to finish it later. Or I don't even know if that's true because the updates are usually available the next day after launch. Well, yeah, I know in Jedi Survivor's case, the game was shipped on probably... I think a lot of times they do it, because... the game isn't finished yet, so they just put this little base thing out there that'll trigger the installation of the game digitally. Right. Or they don't want to spend on the dual layer disc, the extra 5 cents or whatever it costs. So in order to save money, they just ship it on, the lowest disc they can buy from Sony or whoever. Now that I think about it, sorry to interrupt. No. It takes several months from the time you submit the game to the console holder to go through manufacturing and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I can see now that they might want those extra few months for development. Right. And they'll just put a launcher and send that to the publisher. I mean, I feel like it's a risky move, though, because you're basically taking a bet, hey, we're going to manufacture this game before we've actually finished development. Right. And it's hitting shelves on this day. So we have to do whatever we can to push this out. And in Jedi Survivor's case, it was a rough launch for them. Right. They had a lot of problems, a lot of bugs. And until very recently, for some people, the game was completely unplayable on PS5 and Xbox. They had to release a patch that was like 4 months in the making or something like that. Right. Just to get like some game-breaking bugs for some people fixed. And that's kind of crazy that now... And it's affected the way I play games. Like, for a lot of big AAA games, I'll just wait a year. By then, they'll have all the bugs ironed out. Right. By then, the complete version will be out. And you'll be buying it cheaper, more than likely. Definitely cheaper. I mean, a lot of these games you can get for $20-$30 a year later.
I've always naturally been that way because I've
Yeah.
never been somebody who has to have it, except for very certain games.
Yeah, I was going to say, there are some games
Yeah.
that I do want to be there on day one, but I know some people, I see them online where it's like they have to be a part of the conversation for every
Right.
major AAA game that
Yes.
comes out, and I don't know how they do it.
I don't either.
There was a time in my life where I was kind of like that too, like some things I just really wanted to play immediately. I wanted to discuss them online with people. I mean, here we are talking about games on a podcast.
Right.
So I mean, clearly we're into that too. But yeah, I don't know how people play everything. Like, they want to be a part of the conversation for absolutely.
I think there's just a
everything.
FOMO aspect to it. Like they just, if Mortal Kombat 1 has been out for a whole day and they don't have it, they need to get it.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
remember when the third Dragon Age game, Dragon Age Inquisition, came out. I ordered this like ridiculous collector's edition. I don't know why I ordered it, but I don't think I got it on day one that the game launched. I think it came on day two, and I just remember like spending the whole day at home doing absolutely nothing, waiting for the damn game to come out.
Right.
And like waiting for the delivery person to come by.
I remember this.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You may have been living with me at the time.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, I just spent the whole entire day waiting, and the guy didn't show up till like 3. And then when he gives it to me, I'm like ready to tear into it, and had a great time at the game. But yeah, I think for some people spoilers can be a big problem, especially if they're very online.
Right.
They're worried about some major plot point or thread of the game getting ruined for them. So many games seem to be having these very shock twists in them.
Right.
And these moments, yeah, they can be ruined for you.
Oh, definitely. I think YouTube does that a lot.
Oh, God. YouTube thumbnails. Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
Oh, just the thumbnail will show the whole spoiler.
Oh, this character's face got blown off.
Right.
It's like, awesome. Thank you, YouTube.
Yeah. And you didn't even click on the video. You're just scrolling through.
You're just scrolling. And I know I'm guilty of this. I've definitely spoiled things for you, and I feel bad about them. I know I've spoiled some Danganronpa twists for you before.
Yeah, some very specific examples come to mind.
It's just hard when I played the game a year ago, and you're just now playing the game, and then it's like I'm trying to remember like where you're at in the story and what's happened and what hasn't happened, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I remember when this happened,
right?
And you're like, what?
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll never forget that.
Yeah. But you wanted to talk about physical games being sold with a
download code as a physical game.
Right. So the box is empty aside from a little sheet of paper.
You get a plastic case with a sleeve, which good, but then inside is a disc-shaped piece of cardboard with a code printed on it to download the game.
Right.
This is not a physical game, in my opinion. It's a physical thing. It's a physical object, but it's not a physical game. That's my opinion, obviously, but I see this happening a lot, and a lot more. I've even seen collector's editions that have like a metal plate or something with the code stamped on it and that kind of thing, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, I think Starfield did that recently.
Right. But that's still like if I'm getting a collector's edition, I better get the disc.
And more often than not lately, it either doesn't include the game at all if you buy the collector's edition, or you do just get a little piece of paper with the code printed on it.
That's just insane to me.
I think the first time this happened to me was during the PS3 era. There was a DuckTales game made by Way Forward, and they did a physical release for it. And I remember I had it pre-ordered at the GameStop just down the street from here, and I went in to pick it up, and I opened it up, and there was no disc. There was literally a piece of paper in the disc slot. There was a cool little DuckTales Scrooge McDuck pin attached to the paper, but it was just a code.
You're right.
And on one hand, I guess I'd rather have that than have absolutely nothing at all. Like if I'm gonna buy
Right.
digital games, I would love to go into every store and buy a code in the box if it's not getting a proper retail release.
Right.
Now, what's funny is that DuckTales eventually did get a proper
No, yeah,
physical
that
release,
stinks.
and that really irked me because I was like, "Well, I bought it physically
That's
once. Now you
freaking
want me to buy it
horrible.
again?"
That is horrible.
That wouldn't be the first time I bought a game digitally and then physically
Right.
before, so and it won't be the last. That's for
No,
sure.
I think I've done that too. For me, mostly I bought it and then not realizing that I would later get the physical. For I don't know. Oh yeah, I know what it was. I bought it digital and then limited run. Had sold this game a long time ago, and I just figured I'm not ever gonna get a copy of it.
Okay.
And then I find a copy of Book Off.
Uh,
Yeah, that's happened a couple times.
Yeah, I mean, all now it's like whenever there's a really cool like indie digital game that I want to play, I know if I'm just patient enough, if I wait 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, a year,
Yeah.
there will be a physical copy eventually.
Right.
Like,
We have enough of these little companies making the physical copies
yeah,
that I think it's just if the game is not literally just some person's 2-minute project, it can easily get a physical copy.
especially if it like reviews really well. These developers will have all these little small physical publishers knocking on their door like that.
Right.
It's a totally different game now than it used to be, where it was like indie developers would have to go to them and like beg, please publish my game. Now I think it's for sure the other way around. You have these, there's so many of these little publishers, and there's not enough games to fill up in their release schedules that anytime some new game get announced at a Nintendo Direct or State of Play, there's people knocking on these indies doors real quick.
Right. Oh yeah. Speaking of physical games, we just got some signed recently.
Yeah, we were just at the Last of Us 10th anniversary event in Alhambra at Nucleus Gallery, or Gallery Nucleus.
Yep.
And there was a 2-day event. Rick and I went on Saturday, and then I went by myself on Sunday. The first day of the event was the opening reception, you could say. It was specifically to celebrate the 10th anniversary of The Last of Us, the first game, and not excluding the second game.
Right.
And they had
That was all for devs, right?
what do you mean?
The first night.
Oh, well, Friday night
Oh, okay.
was at Gallery Nucleus was an exclusive like dev event, but the first public event was Saturday, which is the day that we went.
That's right.
And they commissioned Gallery Nucleus and Naughty Dog commissioned a bunch of artists to produce original pieces inspired by the first Last of Us game. And they had prints, original art, postcards, all kinds of little goodies, a tote bag. You can find all of this on their website, Gallery Nucleus. Most of the prints are gone now, but I think some of the smaller merchandise items, like the postcard set, which features I think 4 or 5 pieces of the art, is still available to grab. And I think they actually just put up some brand new art today, because today is Outbreak Day, which is the day that the in-game day that the virus, the cordyceps virus, broke out. So we just happened to be recording on what is today, September 26th, 2023.
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah. And so Gallery Nucleus just put up a few new pieces as part of the day's celebration. But the main reason why we went was the signing. You want to talk about that?
Sure. It was the game designer, The Last of Us, Mark, I forgot his last name.
I don't remember.
And 3 other guys. One of them was the character artist. I don't remember the other. We'll pull it up right now. But it was really cool. There were a lot of people in line, but it was a pretty limited event, so you had to get a ticket. Tickets sold out very fast, and so we just don't have. They just didn't have that many people. But for a signing, it was still quite a bit.
There's 4 people, yeah. I mean, they were all like senior developers. I actually have their names. Rick, if you want to riff for a second, I can pull those up.
Okay. So yeah, the event was awesome. When we got there on Saturday, the artwork, like the actual paintings, the original paintings, not the prints, were already sold out. And supposedly, I guess, most of the devs on their pre-party on Friday night had access to buying them. So
yeah, a lot of the original art was already gone. Okay, so I've got the 4 names of the people who were there on Saturday. We had Andre Rodriguez, Frank Zheng, Hyung Nam, and so Andre was is an environmental artist at Naughty Dog. Frank is a lead character artist, and Hyung is the concept artist. And then there was one other person. I've got their name right here. We had Mark Davies, game designer.
Yep.
And so these were all people who worked on the original game. It was pretty cool. I won't lie, there was some disappointment in the crowd, being that it was the opening night reception of the event. Neil Druckmann wasn't there.
Wasn't there, but he was there the next day.
Yeah, he showed up on Sunday rather than Saturday for some reason. So I fortunately had tickets for both days, whereas Ravenheart here only had the Saturday ticket. So I did go back on Sunday. It was a little bit much to go back and make the trek all over again, but they did have 4 brand new people on Sunday.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Another thing that was really cool about this event was the upstairs at Gallery Nucleus.
Oh, yeah.
They had this whole scene set up, like arts and craft, built out of one of the tents or something from the game.
Yeah, it looked like almost like a life-size diorama that you could walk through. Right. There were like crumpled leaves on the ground.
And there were letters from people that were handwritten on paper laying on the ground. And
like as if they were written by the characters in the game.
Radios and stuff that were making noise.
Comic books.
Yeah.
Savage Starlight, I think, is the comic book that Ellie liked to read in the first game, and then you could find all the issues throughout the game.
It was almost sort of like a mini movie set. They didn't really decorate the walls too much. They just put artwork on the walls.
Yeah, the artwork had a bunch of concept art from the first game printed out.
That's right.
I overheard someone say that some of that concept art had never been
seen before. Oh, that's cool.
But it was really dark inside.
Right.
It was kind of hard to get a picture. They had a guy working there who was in like cosplay, who was like acting as like a
flashlight for the stairs.
He was like in character kind of.
Yep.
He looked very menacing.
Yeah, he was obviously playing like an enemy or something.
Definitely. But it was a fun event. I definitely had more fun on the second day.
Right, I bet.
And I'm bummed you weren't there because not only were the 4 devs that were featured there, there was like almost a dozen other devs showed up just to hang out.
Oh, dude. That was the day we were supposed to go.
Yeah.
Oh, now I'm really...
So yeah, my steelbooks are covered in signatures.
Damn. Oh, dude. Oh.
Yeah. One thing that was really disappointing to me, and a bunch of those devs were actually former devs.
Right. The alumni.
Yeah.
All showed up on Sunday with Neil Druckmann, of course. Of course.
But there were a couple of devs who were there, including, I might be saying her name wrong, I think it's Hallie Gross, who was the co-writer with Neil on The Last of Us 2. She was there. Unfortunately, she would not sign anything because I guess her boss, who was like Neil's kind of partner in running the studio, because Neil's president of Naughty Dog now.
Right.
Had explicitly told anybody not doing the signing not to sign anything.
Oh, wow.
So she was like, let me go check, and she came back and she's like, no, sorry, I can't.
That stinks.
Yeah, and I had a perfect spot on my Last of Us 2 steelbook
for her. You should have just staked her out.
I tried. I was like, hey, what if we go outside? You know, what if we don't say anything? You know?
Yeah.
Just like, no, I'm sorry. At one point, after the initial signing, they closed down the gallery, and let all the guests from Naughty Dog walk around and buy stuff and take in the upstairs area and everything.
Cool.
And then when they reopened, they were all gone.
Oh.
Yeah. So, for us, for Rick and I, our expectations for this event were skewed because almost a decade earlier, we attended Naughty Dog's 30th anniversary event at Gallery Nucleus.
The anniversary for the company.
Yeah.
This was the anniversary for Last of Us.
Right. And the 30th anniversary event at Gallery Nucleus was maybe one of the most incredible nights.
Oh, it was amazing. There hasn't been one like it.
No. There's been, there must have
We've
been...
had unique events, but this one was...
It was
the
special.
craziest.
And I mean that sincerely. Like, truly special. There was at least 50 to 75 people from Naughty Dog there almost the whole night.
Right.
There were people who worked on Crash Bandicoot, people who worked on Jak and Daxter,
Yep.
people who worked on Uncharted, people who worked on Last of Us. Every aspect of Naughty Dog's 30 years thus far was represented there. And they would sign everything. We had one of the original Crash Bandicoot artists doing like sketches on our art books.
Right.
They
had autographs, signings at tables in the beginning, but by the end of the night, they were all just walking around the show floor, and you just walked up to any of one of them with your stuff, and they signed it. It was incredible.
Yeah, it was a night unlike any other, and I think we were anticipating a similar event.
Right.
And
we got our hopes up really, really high.
It didn't hold a candle to...
No, that event was one of a kind. That'll probably never happen.
It'll never happen again. No, I don't think so. Next year's their 40th anniversary.
Right. We'll see.
I hope they do something. But I anticipate it'll be probably a lot like what this Last of Us event was, which was still really nice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not complaining. I'm grateful that they did something for the fans, even if it was only limited to like 100 or 150 people each of the 2 signing days.
Right.
We got to go, and I'm grateful. But yeah, it just makes me appreciate that 30th anniversary event even more, knowing what we know now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely.
All right, we're going to take a quick little break. I'm going to pause the broadcast and we'll resume in a moment. Thank you. All right, everyone, we're back from our little break. And now we're going to talk Hideki Kamiya leaving Platinum Games.
Yes. It's kind of unfortunate. He was one of the founders of Platinum Games back in 2006.
He originally worked at Capcom, worked on created titles like Devil May Cry. He directed Resident Evil 2.
He was part of the legendary Clover team.
Yep.
So he did Okami, Beautiful Joe.
Just classic after classic after classic after classic. Then formed Platinum Games with a bunch of former Clover people.
Yep.
They created Bayonetta, which ended up being a smash hit for, a sort of a niche audience for sure, but one of the defining action games of the PS3, Xbox 360 generation for sure.
Definitely.
But he's leaving Platinum Games effectively a couple of weeks from now, right?
Yeah, October 2nd, I believe, is when he actually officially leaves.
The 2nd?
That's
I thought it was...
the 12th. It was the 12th. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, I thought it was a couple weeks in. That's got to make you wonder what's going on at Platinum Games. Why is he leaving? Now, if you look at Platinum Games' output over the last couple of years, there's not been a whole lot. They've had Bayonetta 3.
Mm-hmm.
They had Astral Chain for Nintendo Switch, which is actually a really great game. Yeah. Highly recommend it.
They only make great games.
They did make that game with Square Enix recently, Babylon's Fall, I think it's called, which was like a live service game, which was discontinued in like a year.
Oh.
So that was kind of a big dud. It was contracted work, so I don't think it really affected their pay so much, but they were probably counting on it to be a source of revenue for years to come.
But it's interesting that you mentioned contracting work, because they did Star Fox Zero, actually.
That's right. They actually have a pretty good relationship with Nintendo.
Right. He had actually been pitching Star Fox to Nintendo for like 2 years prior to
Right.
Star Fox Zero, and they kept telling him no.
I mean, it's unfortunate that Star Fox Zero came out on the Wii U.
Right.
And that it, like, required motion control.
Right.
Which made it unpopular for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's true.
And again, it was a retread of the original Star Fox story over again.
Looked amazing, though.
Well, you got to play that at E3.
I did, yeah. I played the demo at E3.
Did you play the demo where you were, like, sitting in the R-Wing?
I was inside the R-Wing little demo.
The wait for that was so long.
It was my whole day.
Yeah.
Standing in line for that.
I kind of regret that I didn't do it, because I know they gave some pretty sweet swag.
It was that one enamel pin. It was like pewter.
Yeah.
And it was the R-Wing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I still have it. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Another thing, they did Star Fox Guard on Wii U that followed up. It was like a tie-in spin-off.
They packaged them together as a bundle.
Right. Oh, that's right.
It was interesting. They released both games physically, so you got 2 sets of, like, 2 cases of discs in, like, a box.
Mm.
I mean, you can still find that set online for $20, brand new seal. That game bombed hard, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah, right. I picked up Star Fox Guard at Book Off for $4.99.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, it was bundled with the game, you know, and Guard, it's like a puzzle game more than anything, I think.
It's a total spin-off, but it's supposed to tie into Star Fox Zero.
Right. And now I gotta wonder, why is he leaving? Is it because Platinum's in trouble? Is it because he got an offer to go do something else? Is it because maybe he's been in too much of a supervisory role the last decade or so? Maybe he wants to get his hands dirty making a game again?
Yeah, that's true about him. His last several titles at Platinum, including Bayonetta 3, were all supervisory. I don't even know if he really had his hands in development very much at all.
I think Bayonetta 3, he was, like, maybe responsible for the story, or...
he wrote the story for 2.
He wrote the story for 2.
Sure.
I think maybe he was just sort of like a creative consultant director or something. He has a strange title for Bayonetta 3. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head.
It's something like that.
But there's been a trend lately in Japan. This happened not just last year. The creator of Super Monkey Ball and the Yakuza series, Nagoshi, I think his name is.
Left Sega?
He left Sega because I think it was Tencent offered him big money to start a brand new studio. And so I've seen a lot of speculation already that this is Kamiya got a similar offer,
right?
And that's what's happening. And it won't be too long before we hear about Kamiya's new studio,
right? For sure, he's not leaving the industry or going or doing anything like that. He's like the guy has only made great games.
I have the statement from Platinum Games right here that they posted on X, formerly known as Twitter.
Right.
We regret to announce that Hideki Kamiya will be leaving Platinum Games on October 12, 2023. We are truly grateful for his creative ideas, leadership, and contribution to the growth of Platinum Games from our startup to this very day. We believe that he will continue to succeed in his future endeavors as a game creator. We are looking forward to seeing the game industry grow into a better place with him in it. We wish him all the best for the future. And then he posted, also on X, formerly known as Twitter, as announced on Platinum Games' X account, I will be leaving Platinum Games on October 12, 2023. This came after a lot of consideration based on my own beliefs and was by no means an easy decision to make. However, I feel this outcome is for the best. I will continue to create in my Hideki Kamiya way. I hope you'll keep your eyes peeled. And that's it.
It's interesting that he posted that in English because he has a reputation for banning people if they don't post in Japanese on his page.
Yes, he doesn't. He takes no prisoners.
No, he doesn't.
He bans you from his account and he calls you an insect.
You know, when was a Kickstarter for
The
Wonderful
101.
Yeah. They had that as a stretch goal, get banned by him.
Yeah.
Which is funny and interesting.
I've actually met Kamiya in real life. I saw, I think it was the Game Awards in 2018. a day or two before, he posted on Twitter, now known as X, that he was going to be attending, and he posted a picture of like his airplane or something and said, "I'm boarding my flight for the Game Awards." I got to use the translate feature on Twitter to understand what he's talking about, but I was like, oh crap, he's going to be at the Game Awards. So I packed my copy of Bayonetta and Okami just in case I bumped into him. And sure enough, I get into my seat, and 3 rows ahead of me, and I'm not in like a primo seat or anything. I'm like off to the side, kind of. I mean, it's not a bad seat, but I'm not center or anything like that.
Right.
And Kamiya and I can't remember his name. I think it's Atsushi Inaba. They were sitting right there in front of me. Yeah. And so I work up a little bit of courage, walk over there, and I asked him to sign both my games, and Inaba worked on Okami as well, so he signed my copy of Okami, and it was great. I wasn't sure what to expect because I know he's playful with his fans, to say the least, on Twitter. But no, he was really appreciative. He like insisted on shaking my hand. I didn't even put my hand out for a handshake, but he wanted to shake it. He was really, really pleasant, and so I really do wish him the best. I'm curious to see what happens next. I do wonder about Platinum's fate without him. I do think he is a big part of their personality, their DNA. But I don't think this is the end for Platinum. But part of me does maybe wonder, is he jumping ship for some reason?
Right. I mean, we have no idea really if it's him having a better offer or him wanting to go on a different direction for himself personally as a game designer, or if he is jumping ship. We just don't know. We've seen a big trend in the last decade of legendary game designers leaving their studios to start their own studio, which sometimes, a lot of the time, I would think get deals with big publishers.
Yeah, that's it is. I do wonder about their motivation sometimes.
Right.
Like, are they just trying to get bought out so they can get a big payday? Is that what the hope is? Make some new IP that people want to play, and then, EA swoops in and buys you out for, $50 million.
Right. And they call themselves indie.
Yeah,
that's something that, yeah.
Oh, we have to have that discussion.
Yeah, we have to. But yeah, this started all the way back with Igarashi leaving Tecmo, Itagaki leaving Tecmo, Igarashi leaving Konami, all to start their own studios. Obviously, Hideo Kojima leaving Konami.
I mean, Konami, I think that's a special case. Anybody who left Konami...
Yeah, they had a good reason.
Because Konami was going in a weird direction.
Yeah. Definitely.
But so I mean, I don't know about Rick, but I personally wish Kamiya the best. And
absolutely. I love Platinum games. Dude, remember when we went to the Metal Gear Rising event?
Oh yeah. Well, we're gonna have to go down memory lane and talk about that one of these days. I really do. I'm curious to see what happens next. I'm excited for him. If he's excited, it can only mean good things.
I think it will mean good things. He's gonna make a great game, whatever his next project is.
I'm guessing he got some kind of offer that was way too good to refuse, where he's gonna be able to make like his dream game or something.
I think that's most likely the case.
Yeah. I mean, why else do you leave a studio that you founded, essentially?
Absolutely. I just hope it's not Tencent.
I mean, that's who has all the money.
Yeah, it's true.
And if Tencent wants to give him a ginormous budget to make his magnum opus,
I guess.
Then so be it.
I guess so. That's true.
All right, so we're going to talk Unity. Unity's been in the news a bit lately.
Yes, yeah.
Now, you're a bit of a Unity expert yourself. You work on developed games in Unity, so I'm going to let you take lead on this one.
Yeah, sure. So, recently, Unity had announced something that rubbed a lot of developers the wrong way, and I'm pulling up my notes here.
All right, so real briefly, Unity announced that they were going to start charging 20 cents per install for every single one of their games across all platforms. And developers are outraged, particularly indie developers and mobile game developers.
Yeah, that's kind of the gist. They announced a Unity runtime fee of 20 cents initially. This is on September 13th. Per what they said, the term they used was install for personal and plus license devs. Unity has 4 licenses.
Okay.
And then a 1 to 15 cent fee for pro, and 1 to 12.5 cent for enterprise licenses, depending on the amount of installs per month.
Okay.
Right. This would affect games that reach 200,000 annually and 200,000 lifetime installs for personal and plus, and $1 million revenue annually and 1 million installs lifetime installs for pro and enterprise. Now, on the 22nd, they came out with a big update to this after a lot of pressure, and that's a lot of time if you think about it, from September 13th to September 22nd.
It was more than a week.
Yes.
That just anger and frustration.
Articles on Ars Technica and maybe Gama Sutra.
Everywhere covered this.
Some of the articles were talking about like potential lawsuits and stuff like that coming from devs, especially larger studios. Now, finally, they were trying to hold their ground, but finally they came out on the 22nd and made an update, and it's actually pretty good. I can live with this.
So what's changed from the original agreement?
So they changed the term install to the term initial engagement, which it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it is, because install implies one player, one user can install the game 20 times.
Right. Every time they download a new phone or get a new phone, they want to download their game again that's made in Unity.
Exactly. And if the developer has to pay 20 cents every time they do that, that's silly. That makes no sense. But Unity has a way of tracking the console or the system's identification.
Okay.
And they do it that way now. Now it's going to be 15 cents for Pro, with less than 100,000 initial engagements per month, which can go all the way down to 1 cent for enterprise users with over 1 million a month. So this still favors the big studios over the small studios, but later on there's more details here that actually make it a pretty good deal for the small studios. The runtime fee is also capped at 2.5% of the revenue or the price point of the game. So this is a big deal because previously free-to-play games, this would have destroyed them, made them impossible to develop on Unity, basically. Right. So with the fee being capped at 2.5% of the price point, or up to 20 cents or 15 cents now, that's a big deal.
So if a game is free to play, like for example, Genshin Impact is made in Unity.
Right.
Like this makes me think that Unity wants a chunk of that change.
So for as long as Genshin Impact is free to play, they shouldn't pay anything.
Really?
But I don't know how this applies to in-game purchases. Nothing I read says anything about that or even mentions it. I imagine that goes into revenue, counts as part of revenue, and I assume that studio has an enterprise license.
Probably.
So after they get 1 million in revenue, they'll have to owe something.
Okay.
According to this. So now with the updated terms here, the only projects that this actually affects are games that reach $1 million in revenue in the last year, are using the next version or later. They announced that the current version and older versions will not have this impact. So it's only now forward, and have a pro or enterprise license. That's right. They announced that the personal is going to be free again.
Okay.
So if you operate with a personal license, Unity Personal as your license, which is all the solo devs, everybody making those small little games on itch.io and stuff, that's what they're using.
Okay.
Like they're using Unity Personal.
Unity. Is that what you use?
I use Pro, but it was provided to me by. I don't know if I should say that.
That's fine.
But it was provided to me by my console holder. But I'm using 2017 Unity 2017, so I won't be impacted.
Right, because this only impacts the new version that's coming out next year, right?
Correct. That's
Games
correct.
Games
built in the current version right now will not be affected.
They're exempt from all of this.
Correct.
So I kind of feel like they're putting a Band-Aid on it, but a few years from now, as people start to use the new version,
they might start rolling it more fees and stuff like that.
Yeah,
this is still crossing the line because the founder of Unity came out a long time ago and said, "We're not effing around," was his exact verbiage when in response to a question about fees and royalty shares. And this is a 180 from that philosophy.
Right.
But at least they rolled it back. At least it's a little bit better, and I don't know what Unity's doing financially. I don't know how they're doing, but if this is,
I think their shares took a huge hit.
I think that's what it is.
Weeks.
I really think that's what it is. Well,
they probably thought their shares were going to spike when they announced these new fees.
Right.
But it seems it's had the opposite effect.
Yeah, they just made people really mad.
Yeah. I mean, what are you without your users if people don't want to develop games using
they're not untouchable. They're not. I mean, they own the place as far as engines go, especially among indies, but this can hurt them if they continue down this road too far.
Now, I've seen a lot of indie devs talking about this alternative to Unity. It's called Godot, G-A-D-O-T.
Oh, yeah, I'm familiar with Godot. I've never used it or tinkered with it, but yeah, it's...
Okay, I think it uses C#.
Okay,
yeah.
So yeah, that's an easy conversion. If you are on Unity and you want to get off of Unity, you can go to Godot, and your programming language, C# should translate pretty easily.
Okay.
There is one other point here, and that's that when using Unity Personal, it has always been the case, and I've been using Unity since Unity 2, way back in like 2008 or 2009. It has always been the case that when you're using Unity Personal and you release a game, if your game makes over $100,000 in revenue, you're required to upgrade to Pro. Now that means upgrading to Pro means that you're going to have some fees.
Right.
But check this out. This is the part where they did something good for the little guy.
Okay.
They increased that limit to 200,000.
Okay.
So that's nice. They doubled that limit, so that's going to exempt.
I think I also read something about developers are no longer required to use the Made with Unity splash screen.
Yep, that's true. Which is weird that they did that. Actually, so Unity Personal has always required you or your game to use the Made with Unity splash screen, probably as an incentive to get people to get Pro. Or at least buy a month of Pro when you launch, so that you can disable that if you don't want it. I can think of instances where you might want that, but with like tech demos and stuff that aren't necessarily games, and you want to show that you used a game engine,
right?
Or something like that. But that's actually really nice that they made that optional, because that would require you to get Pro to get rid of that splash screen. So some stuff that is a positive, a win for the little developer here. They are still giving volume discounts for big studios that reach the $1 million mark and stuff like that, but I understand that Unity needs to stay afloat, and I know that they do need to evolve their policies and figure out ways to be more profitable, because I just want them to stay alive. I'm not saying they're struggling necessarily, or probably are now, but I just, yeah. So Unity updated the terms that.
I mean, I feel like Unity's biggest problem was going public. I feel like when any company goes public, they shift their priority to shareholders.
Yes.
Than they do their users.
That's any company.
So I mean, now that I don't know how long Unity's been public, but I feel like now they have, their shareholders want to get more money. They want more value for their shares. So Unity's trying to find ways to create more value in the company. When I'm sure before they were public, they were making money just as fine, but they saw that, we can make the company public, and now all of a sudden I've got a huge amount of shares that are worth, triple what it was worth before.
Right.
I don't know. This is just a trap that I feel happens all too much.
Yeah, it's any company, and once you go public, there are C-level people running around thinking about their salaries and how they can make them bigger.
Yeah.
So that might be what this is.
Yeah. I mean, the current CEO of Unity, or I don't know if he's the CEO, but he's one of those whatever
suits.
Yeah, one of the suits, John Riticello.
Yeah.
Who was the guy who used to run EA, and so that should speak volumes to what's going on at Unity, I think. But yeah, definitely a precarious situation. I think they've taken the heat off them a little bit. I think they've, for the time being, made people.
I can tell you that Ars Technica their last article about them had a positive attitude about it. I haven't really looked at Gamasutra or any of the other websites.
I mean, it sounds like they've listened. They've heard the feedback.
But they were pretty adamant. It sounds like for the week and a half before they came out with
they
this.
didn't back down. They didn't really say much of anything, I don't think. But I'm glad they responded with at least sort of a temporary fix, to make the people currently using Unity more comfortable, and not as worried about their financial security in the next couple of years to come. I mean, I do think some damage has been done that probably can't be undone.
Right.
And there probably are developers who are now like, okay, they tried this once.
Right.
What's to stop them from doing it again? Maybe we need to get out of here.
Right. It just, if they need revenue shares, that's one thing, but make it scalable and do not, because initially they wanted Unity personal license to bear the brunt of this.
Yeah.
They were the ones that's the little guy.
Yeah.
They were the ones that were going to get the 20-cent fee.
Which is insane.
And that's insane.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, when you have a free game.
Right.
I mean, 20 cents per... I mean, you have a bunch of people who download the game once and never spend a dime.
I'm going to say something else that this is kind of a devil's advocate
a
little bit, but it's actually what I feel. This is actually my opinion. I think that Unity's wording of their initial announcement of these policy changes was misinterpreted and not well thought out. I don't think they actually ever meant for free to play to bear these fees. I think they just didn't think of how to include that.
Okay, so it's not that it was so much misrepresented. It was more that they didn't elaborate enough.
Exactly.
They didn't explain. So you think really nothing's actually changed? They've just detailed it further?
No, stuff definitely has changed.
Okay.
Yeah, because the fees... Personal was going to get heavily feed, and now it's totally free.
Oh, okay.
So stuff... No, they definitely changed the terms. But I think that they talk a lot about wanting to change the word install to the word initial engagement.
I mean, So... Let's say an indie developer, their game blows up. They charge $10 per copy of the game, and now it's sold 1 million copies.
Right.
How much are they paying?
So
they were on personal.
They were on personal. When they got to 200,000 annual, they would have been required to upgrade to pro. And then they would have been eligible
but this happened overnight.
For these fees.
This happened within the span of 2 weeks.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
A lot of the art... Unity released a bunch of tables
that
you can calculate.
Right.
didn't do a lot of looking.
And now Unity is supposedly able to track the installs in the background.
Yeah, the newer versions of the engine have that capability. They're all tied to you.
I mean, does that mean that like every game made in Unity has like some built-in online DRM now?
Well, I don't know if I'd call it DRM, but your developer license is definitely attached to it.
Okay.
I wouldn't call it DRM because DRM is for security and
right. But what if you sell a physical game and you don't have internet connection? How does Unity know that you installed it?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. Well, you need internet to install it.
I think I read something that Unity is going to, for some cases, you have to do self-reporting.
Oh yeah, that I mean, that's gonna have to happen no matter what. Because there are going to be instances where either there is no internet connection or the developer is using a very old version of Unity to, output their game.
Right.
And that won't include.
Right, because upgrading, games take a long time to make.
Right.
So if someone starts making a game in a certain version of Unity and, their game doesn't come out for 5 years, they don't want to upgrade the engine every year, because that means a huge amount of work for them. Every single stuff is going to break every time you upgrade your version of the game.
Right, yeah. Oh, yeah. Even like with my game, if I download the next version of Unity and open the project and hit, import, stuff's going to be broken. Textures are missing. Materials don't work. Shaders don't work. Not a lot, but enough to make it a project, getting it back in shape.
Right. Okay, well, hopefully Unity developers are feeling a little more secure at the moment, and, they have some choices to make, after they finish their current project, I'm sure.
Yeah. I think Unity is still, I'm just biased.
I know.
I think Unity is still great.
Right, it's a great engine. It's a great resource. I mean, it's effectively free,
right,
until you make $200,000 in revenue,
which is understandable.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
I wish they would go more after like the big studios that are making $10 million on their Unity projects, and or
Genshin Impact making more than $1 billion.
Right. Yeah, Genshin is gonna have to pay something, but they have this volume discount. That's the most off-putting one. That can go down all the way to 1 cent per engagement.
Right.
And that's only the big guys that are going to get that.
Well, that's because, these are the people who have 10 million people playing their game. Right. So that paycheck is still going to be expensive.
Right.
I guess. Especially if there's like a cost associated with in-game transactions.
Right. And they're also definitely paying for the most expensive Unity license, which is Enterprise. They probably also have a source code license, which is thousands.
Okay.
That's a license to be able to get the source code for the Unity engine, so that you can. Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna go back in time a couple weeks now to the Nintendo Direct and the PlayStation State of Play for this past month, September. What was the date on that again?
I don't. Oh, the 14th.
It was the 14th of September. Yeah, Thursday. Let's start off with the Nintendo Direct. I watched this live in person that day on my lunch break, and while there's some really cool, exciting things, I think there's something that's super apparent on Nintendo's part. But what did you think?
Oh, I thought all the games looked really good. I think they were gorgeous. I saw lots of RPGs and tactical RPGs. I saw surprisingly a lot of rhythm games and a lot of Mario Brother games.
Yes, Mario had quite the day.
Yeah, he did.
So let's just start off by talking about some of the bigger titles. We'll start off where the show ends. The show ends with a reveal that Paper Mario, the Thousand Year Door, the GameCube classic, is getting re-released, rebuilt from scratch for Nintendo Switch. Mm-hmm. This is something fans I know have been clamoring for years. Typically Nintendo ends their Direct with like one more thing.
Right.
And this time it was Paper Mario, the Thousand Year Door. So the fact that they're ending their Nintendo Direct with effectively a remake of a classic game, remake, remaster, depending on how you consider that to be used. Tells me that Nintendo is finishing up with the Switch. Like, these titles are titles that you put out when you're wrapping up a console's life cycle.
Yeah, I think they could still get many more years out of it.
Oh, I think the Switch will be around. I mean, Nintendo has historically kept the old console around for a little while, but we're getting into another topic, so I digress a little bit there. But yeah, Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, I'm personally excited by that. It's a really expensive game to track down today. Like, you're talking like $120, I think.
Right.
To pick up a copy in box for Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door.
Some of the Mario titles really have a way of doing that.
Yeah. Particularly Paper Mario, because it's a little more niche, and it's got like very hardcore fans, so people that own a copy are not likely to sell their copy of the game. I mean, that's a win for everybody. Now, I know you're not always the biggest fan of remakes or remasters. You'd rather play the original on the original console, right?
That's true, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any cases where you've ever been excited by a remake
or
a
yes.
remaster?
Yeah, that's not across the board.
Okay.
Yeah, there are many. Speaking of remakes, there were quite a few in this Direct. Luigi's Mansion 2, Mario vs. Donkey Kong, a Game Boy Advance title being rebuilt from scratch with 3D graphics.
It looks really nice.
It looks amazing. Contra looked really good.
Yes.
Tomb Raider thing looked really cool.
Yeah, I was impressed by that a lot.
I love that you could toggle.
Yeah, just like at the snap of a finger, you can go from retro graphics to like slightly modern retro graphics.
Yep. And there's this is kind of a weird topic here. It's a remake, but it's got kind of something we've seen before, where they turn it into like a, what do you call it?
I don't know. What do you call it? What game are you talking about?
Like a showdown? The F-Zero thing.
Oh, yes. Okay, so Nintendo, they have their Nintendo Family online plan thing that you can subscribe to, either individually or as part of a family plan. And they have these Battle Royale games.
That's what I'm thinking.
They had Tetris 99. They had Mario. They had a Mario one. I can't remember what the number was, like 35 or something like that. And then they had Pac-Man 99. Unfortunately, Pac-Man 99 was recently discontinued its online service and is no longer available for purchase. Or, I mean, it was a free download, but you could purchase a pack that would allow you to play extra game modes and play the game offline by yourself. That's gone now. But F-Zero 99 is here to take its spot as the free game from Nintendo Switch Online, and it looks pretty cool. I've downloaded it on my Switch. I haven't played it yet. I've been too distracted by the Pokemon DLC.
Yeah.
But it looks great, and I've heard nothing but good stuff from people who've been playing it online. I know a lot of F-Zero fans were disappointed.
Yeah.
That there's a particular...
I'm just happy to see F-Zero get something.
Yes, I 100% agree. I know online there's a guy on Twitter who leaked or who teased a lot of stuff coming to the Nintendo Direct, and he was right about all of it. Everything that he teased was there.
Well, follow that guy.
Yeah, I think his name is Pyoro, Pyoro. He's got an in somewhere with Nintendo. I don't know where he's getting his info from, but everything he teased came true. He had teased F-Zero, and unfortunately, it wasn't like a brand new. Oh yeah,
you're right. I can see that going sideways.
It was a battle royale version of the F-Zero for SNES. Which I think is awesome.
I do.
I think it's really cool. But I can see if you're a hardcore, dedicated, you haven't gotten a new F-Zero game since the GameCube.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You're dying.
Yeah, you're dying.
F-Zero.
You're dying. And it's because Mario Kart's there. And they just don't need 2 racing franchises.
You're probably right. Why would Nintendo compete against itself? I mean, they did throw F-Zero a bone in Mario Kart 8. They did put a couple F-Zero courses, or F-Zero inspired courses, I should say, and some karts in Mario Kart 8.
I mean, I don't even know if that's a bone. It's more like
it's a bone.
It's more like a kernel of dog food.
But I mean, I was excited to hear that music in Mario Kart, and I think that's a hint of where the next Mario Kart game we get might not be a Mario Kart game.
I
think we could be going,
that's interesting to think about.
Super Nintendo Kart, or, Super Smash Kart or something like that.
That would be really crazy.
Yeah, because they had DLC courses that featured like Animal Crossing tracks in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we're going to see the next Mario Kart from Nintendo go. It'll be interesting. I mean, Mario Kart has such a recognizable brand name.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, they just built a whole ride at Universal Studios based around Mario Kart.
Right.
So I do think maybe they're a little leery of losing the Mario Kart branding. But
there was not that long ago, there was a Saturday Night Live skit that was basically a Mario Kart movie trailer.
Oh yeah, I remember that with
like
Pedro Pascal.
Gritty,
it's like The Last of Us, but Mario Kart.
But getting back to like the F-Zero thing, it's a concept. It's almost like a new type of remake. Or re-release. You know?
I've enjoyed, I really like Pac-Man 99. I really like Tetris 99. I think it's a fun, novel way to bring back, like, a classic title.
Rather than just constantly keep regurgitating the same game file.
And so I'm excited to check it out. I really do want to see F-Zero 99. I just need to put down Pokemon for an evening and check it out.
There were also some other wacky indie game type of items here in the direct. That Trombone Champ,
yes,
looked interesting.
Have you not seen that before?
No, I hadn't.
Okay, yeah, it's been on. I think it came out on Steam sometime last year.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty goofy.
Yeah.
But it looks like it's fun. I have heard from people that it's hilarious for about half an hour. And then you never go back to it. You're kind of like, okay, I'm tromboned out. But I like that they're incorporating like multiplayer and they're incorporating like motion controls into using it.
Right.
I do think it could find a new home as sort of like a party game, something you break out when you've got people over.
Right.
I think that's a really smart move from them because I'm sure they have data that shows that people don't play this game for a huge length of time.
Right.
But I do think it can find like a second life in someone's home as a party game.
It had 50 songs in it.
Yeah.
That's
now on PC, it's got a big advantage because you can add your own songs to it.
Okay.
Yeah, people make custom tracks for it. So when it comes to console, you're going to be
much.
a little more limited. I'm sure they'll probably do like DLC packs and things like that if it takes off on console.
Just curious, do you know the name of the studio for that game?
I don't off the top of my head, no.
Another one, rhythm game that they mentioned, also indie looking, Super Crazy Rhythm Castle. That one looked... It's kind of really hard to tell what all is going on screen.
Okay.
It's very busy.
You know, that one has escaped my memory a little
bit. It's up there.
Okay.
But yeah, indie looking at least.
All right. So for me, what I'm most excited about from the Direct was it's got kind of a corny name, I'm not going to lie, but Vanillaware is one of my favorite studios of all time. Hands down.
Same.
I buy every single one of their games on day one. I don't care. Unicorn Overlord.
Yeah, Unicorn Overlord was the next thing I was going to bring up.
I did not have that on my bingo card. Vanillaware has never been super focused on Nintendo. Miramasa was originally exclusive for the Nintendo Wii.
Yeah.
But I feel like in the last decade or so, they've been focusing primarily on PlayStation. 13 Sentinels did get a port for Nintendo Switch.
Right.
I think it was last year.
So that only makes one game that was never released on Switch or Nintendo, which is
Dragon's Crown.
Yeah,
was never released.
So other than that, their 3 other ones are.
I know they even made a DS game. a long
Oh,
time
they did?
ago that only released in Japan.
Oh, crap.
But I think Princess Crown. I don't think that ever
Oh, I forgot
released.
about Princess Crown. You're right.
And then technically Miramasa Rebirth, which
Okay,
it does add quite about a significant amount of content through the DLC, which is, I'm not going to have a whole conversation about this, but the DLC for Miramasa Rebirth is, in my opinion, the way to do DLC. Like, there has never been DLC as good as the DLC in Miramasa Rebirth. Like, it adds so much replayability to the game. The new characters they add, you can fight all the bosses from the main game, and they each have their own new story and slate of bosses. It is the defining way to do DLC. It's not some little 1 megabyte thing that you download and then you unlock some costumes. It's DLC, and that was almost a decade ago, if not a decade ago, that came out.
The artwork, of course, because it's Vanillaware, looks incredible, like insane.
Yeah.
They're really good.
It's a tactical
RPG,
which is
my favorite genre.
Yeah, I can't get enough of it, and I pre-ordered that collector's edition the second it became available, and sure, it's got a bunch of useless crap, but I want to give Vanillaware my money, and I don't care.
Oh yeah, it doesn't matter.
I mean, that's like, if there's any one studio that I'm like, they need to stay alive, I need to protect them more than any other studio on the planet Earth. It's Vanillaware. Thankfully, they have a good relationship with Atlas, and Atlas seems to be happy to fund their games and publish
They're
them.
very Atlas-y.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Yeah.
They what was I gonna say? The Unicorn Overlord whole trailer, piece that they played. What it showed, it showed the characters, it showed them walking around, it showed the puppet style 2D animation, that same kind of 2D animation that you see in Miramasa, with the bosses and stuff. So I was really, really excited to see that.
That's my bread and butter. I can't get enough of it.
One game that was in the direct that I didn't even know about, but I'm ready to buy, is actually this Spy Anya Operation Memories game.
Okay.
It's like a
What do you know about this? Yeah, because it's based on an anime called Spy Family.
Yeah.
I've never watched it. I think it looks interesting.
Based on the gameplay that I saw, I am like...
It's huge, by the way. This anime is ginormous.
Really?
It's probably one of the most popular, top 5 popular animes on the planet right now.
I would probably start watching it.
Yeah.
As I started playing this. Just... The gameplay looks awesome. Yeah. I just want to go play it.
It's like a little slice of life sim.
Yeah, exactly.
To be like a toddler.
Exactly. It's too different.
Yeah, that was definitely... There was a lot of unexpected stuff in this direct. Like, stuff I never would have guessed was coming. Like, the niche gamer inside of me, who's a fan of, like, weird, kind of strange experimental games, was, like... over the moon.
There was a lot of that. Dave the Diver is another one that they showed where you play as this guy who dives for fish, and then you go serve sushi to a bunch of people, and it's one of those restaurant-style management games.
Yeah.
That looked really cool. Princess Peach Showtime. I'm going to buy it.
Okay, yeah.
I'm going to buy it.
Yeah, Princess Peach. Peach is getting another video game after, 15 years since the DS title?
And
it looks really freaking cool. I love that they're giving her, like, her own big story and just all the cool transformations that she has. I love the theater play motif that they're going for.
Yeah, the theme.
Yeah.
The Kung Fu Peach transformation had me sold. Like, that was...
I'm all about Swordmaster Peach. That outfit, that was cool. Yeah, she looks awesome.
Yeah.
They had teased this new Peach game when they did a direct back in June or May. I can't remember when it was. But they didn't say much about it at the time. But yeah, we really got a full reveal of it, or as close to a full reveal as we'll probably get for a little while.
There were 2 League of Legends spin-offs mentioned, or shown, and they both look really good. Probably not going to play them just because it's League of Legends. And Prejudice. And, but they look good. They look like really good games. That sort of Mana style,
Okay.
Harvest Moon style
Okay.
2D top down kind of look. You are the Splatoon guy between the two of us.
Okay, yeah.
But the side order thing looked really cool.
Yeah.
Looked really cool.
So, yeah, I mean, I haven't bought Splatoon 3. I haven't played it. I did play the first Splatoon. I did play Splatoon 2. Splatoon 2 started having DLC. And the last DLC was like the really meaty DLC where they add like new story content and stuff. And they're following that same kind of trend for Splatoon 3. And yeah, they get really weird, abstract, and like interesting. Like Splatoon fans, like they are going to be feasting on this DLC. Yeah. I'm sure they cannot wait.
Mm-hmm.
Splatoon single player content is really hard.
Yeah, I bet.
It is not for, like you got to be like, I don't want to sound gatekeepy, but you got to be like a real gamer. You got to spend some time. You got to get good at this game.
Yeah.
Because it's different from the multiplayer. I mean, it plays the same. You control the character the same way, but it's challenging. There are they're like crazy obstacle courses, and I mean the game is forgiving in that like you respawn, not far from where you die your character, good. But they are very challenging. I
can imagine.
They're real gamer games.
The way that looked though, the Splatoon 3 side order, aesthetic. The aesthetic was just incredible. Yeah. I loved it. Yeah. It didn't even look like, I had to look closely to see that it was Splatoon.
And the way they present it to you in this very mysterious fashion, it's like you just can't help but be like, oh, like that was a great trailer.
Yeah,
that was
it was. It was really
a masterclass trailer right there. So for me, I mean, okay, a couple other things I'm excited for, but one thing I really want to talk about. So I'm excited for the Super Mario RPG remake. That's something I never had access to as a kid. I didn't have a Super Nintendo until, I was like a tween practically. And Super Mario RPG is an expensive game then, and it's an expensive game now.
Right.
It's a cult classic, and they're remaking the game for the Switch. It comes out in a couple months. It looks fantastic. They've added a lot to the game while retaining its weird, quirky visual look and charm.
Well, I think Squaresoft was involved with that.
They developed it originally, So I mean, I am curious. Nintendo hasn't said anything. Square Enix hasn't said anything about who's taking development duties for this. So I'll be curious when the credits roll, or when that information gets out, to see who was responsible. If it was a joint thing, or if they farmed it out to maybe a third party altogether.
Right.
But what I'm really interested in, what I was really shocked to see, was another code.
I forgot about that.
Recollection, which is a brilliant title because it's basically saying it's a remake and it's a collection with the word recollection.
Right.
I mean, it's just so smart.
It's a sequel to Trace Memory.
Well, so
there was a second one in the middle.
Right. So it's a collection of two games. The original game for DS, Trace Memory, and then a second game, which only released in Japan and Europe, never in North America.
Right.
I can't remember the title off the top of my head, but it's finally coming to the Americas.
I played Trace Memory on DS.
Okay.
Beat it.
Yeah.
And there's multiple endings and stuff. Played them all.
Yeah.
And I still think about that game today.
So, I mean, no one thought that was coming. No. I mean, well, technically, that guy on Twitter kind of hinted that it might be coming.
Right.
But, I mean, people were in disbelief. People were doubting this guy majorly because Nintendo, they're not always the best at remembering their less successful franchises.
Right.
So it was...
Very true.
It was a massive shock to see that this was really happening. And this is more than a simple port job, for sure. I mean... they're redeveloping the visual. I mean, it looks stunning compared to how it was presented on the DS back then.
Right. It looked good then, but not now.
Oh, yeah. It was impressive for the DS for sure. I'm excited because I didn't play that. It was one of those DS games that came, went, got really expensive. Yeah. And I missed the boat on it. I wasn't as online. I wasn't paying attention to the discourse back then.
It has sort of the atmosphere of like a horror game, but it's not really a horror game.
I've heard it's more emotional.
Right.
Yeah.
It's dark.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to playing through those for the first time. The Nintendo Switch could go another year if it just gives me more cool niche games like this. I'm excited, but I know your average gamer was probably not like overwhelmed with excitement by this direct.
Right. I mean, there's plenty of Mario in there. Like, so anyone looking for that.
But it's not like 3D Mario.
Right.
It's not Mario Odyssey. But Mario Wonder, it didn't really get a whole lot of talk at this one because Mario Wonder's coming out pretty soon, and it got its own direct a couple weeks earlier. And I got to play it when I went to Nintendo Live in Seattle at the beginning of the month. It was fantastic, by the way, and I'm actually picking it up on day one, which I don't usually do for 2D Mario games. That's coming out. There's Paper Mario. There's Mario RPG. There's Mario versus Donkey Kong. I mean,
there's the Peach game.
There's the Peach game. There's Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, the final final booster DLC.
Luigi's Mansion 2.
Luigi's Mansion 2. I mean, even WarioWare is tangentially a Mario title. It's great. It's great. I mean, these titles they're going to be able to coast on, I think, for the first half of next year.
Yeah. Which, if you're trying to collect all the Mario titles, this is gonna kill you.
This is gonna break the bank a little bit. I mean, in my case, I think I've purchased almost every single first-party published Nintendo Switch game. I might be missing maybe 2 or 3. So yeah,
that's gonna be tough for you.
Yeah.
I'm actually really, really glad to see all the tactical RPGs, and we talked about Unicorn Overlord already, but there was also the Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes.
Yes.
The new Saga game, Emerald Beyond, Wartail, and Wargroove 2.
Okay.
Like 5.
Let's talk about Eiyuden Chronicles real quick. What do you know about that game?
Just what I saw.
Okay, so it may have reminded you, and I'm probably mispronouncing this, Suidoken on the PlayStation. I think it was a
Konami title. Okay, yeah.
So it is made by the devs.
The dev from that.
Yes, like a lot of the key members, they left. I think it was Konami, right? Yeah, it was Konami, because Konami announced a Suidoken remake that they're doing, or like a port of the original couple games that they're doing earlier this year. And so it's one of those games where there's like more than 100 different characters to recruit to your party. Total branching story. Different
in
outcomes.
A tactical RPG, that's an amazing thing.
And visually, it is amazing. Now, this was a game that they said they wouldn't be able to port to the Switch when they launched their Kickstarter years ago. They said this game will be for the Switch successor and PlayStation 4, Xbox, and so on. Because this game had a Kickstarter, I want to say 4, maybe 5 years ago now. But somehow they've made it work on the Switch, and it looked pretty dang good. I mean, it's probably capped at 30 FPS. I'm sure some people are probably debating, well, do I want to get that on Switch, or do I want to get that on a home console? I don't know. Well, not that Switch isn't a home console, but you know what I mean.
Right.
So, I mean, there's maybe going to be some performance issues with the Switch version, but the fact that they got it running and they're making it happen for people that really wanted it on Switch, I think that's awesome.
Two indie or tactical RPGs, Wartail and Wargroove. Like they look amazing too.
Yeah, I bought the original Wargroove. I liked it, but I found that the maps took forever. And Wargroove is basically a medieval take on Advance Wars.
Oh, gotcha.
And it's made by Chucklefish.
It looks like Advance Wars.
Yeah, and it's great. And I'm curious about the sequel, if maybe they took some of that feedback where players are like, oh my god, these maps take like 3 hours to do,
Right.
And the game lets you save partway through, and that's cool. But it could be a lot, especially for a console that's very pick up and play. You want to be able to do things maybe a little bites. I think Advanced Wars had that figured out,
Right.
I mean, those maps could take a while to figure out the best strategy.
Right.
But once you have it figured out, the maps are like 30 minutes, 40 minutes tops usually. But there are some exceptions to that with Advance Wars. But we're getting pretty close to a 2-hour mark here, so I think we should talk about the September state of play for PlayStation real quick.
Yep.
Personally, I wasn't overly blown away by too much that I saw. Or at least a lot of it didn't really catch my attention.
It's very Spider-Man heavy.
Yeah, I mean, that's their big upcoming game.
Right.
And that's, Sony, it's weird when you compare Nintendo to Sony or Xbox. I mean, the amount of internally developed titles, first-party titles that Nintendo constantly has coming out, and generally they're of a very high quality, with some exceptions. It's insane. Compared to Sony or Microsoft, who have like maybe 1 or 2 big games that come out every year.
Right. When PlayStation does it, though, they are big games.
They're very big games.
Right.
They go big. They go really big. But yeah, I do wonder, like, what's going on? I know that games take a long time to make, especially when you're making games in 4K.
Yeah.
The transition that Nintendo hasn't really had to make yet.
Right.
I think they have a lot of stuff in development, and I just wonder if any of it will come to PlayStation 5 or if it's all PlayStation 6 titles.
Right. Yeah, that's a good question.
So real quick, PlayStation announced a few games. They started off with an indie game called Baby Steps, which looked interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely a weird title, and I respect them for opening up with it. I don't know that your average PlayStation gamer that's really what they're looking for.
Right. But at least they have something for those who aren't.
Right. Then they went to the Ghostbusters VR game, which looks cool if you really want that immersive Ghostbusters experience. For the core gamer, they covered Resident Evil 4 VR mode, as well as...
That would be so terrifying in VR.
Oh, yeah.
God.
Definitely. But the fact that, like, from what I understand, you can, like, use the knife in VR to, like, block chainsaws and stuff.
Geez.
Like, yeah, like, that's pretty crazy. I don't have a PSVR 2. I bought a PSVR on day 1 originally. But I don't know. I'm kind of worried about PSVR 2. I don't know. It just seemed like a lot of money to invest into it, and not really being sure that
you're right.
there was going to be a lot of support for it. I know Sony has kind of burned some bridges in the past, especially with like the Vita and handheld community. So I'm worried that VR2 is their next Vita.
Yeah, they really have a way of like screwing over some of their systems.
Yeah, I mean, it just sucked. The Vita was incredible, and I don't know why they gave up so early. I feel like they could have supported it for a little longer to make something better out of it. Real quick though, also with the Resident Evil 4 VR mode, they announced a brand new DLC campaign for Resident Evil 4, Separate Ways. So I imagine Resident Evil story fiends are salivating over what's to come there.
Right.
Then there was a new Avatar Frontiers of Pandora game, which I actually thought that looked pretty impressive. It's coming from Ubisoft. I can't remember, was it first person or was it third person, or could you switch?
The
Avatar Frontiers of Pandora.
It was, you know what? It showed the third person character, but I couldn't really tell if that was cutscene or if that was like gameplay.
Yeah, it's a couple of weeks ago now for me in my head, so I'm struggling to remember. Apologies.
Real quick, one game that really did stand out to me in this is the Honkai Star Rail game. That looked really cool.
So this is the game I was talking about earlier. It's made by the creators of Genshin Impact.
Oh shoot!
Oh,
it looked really good.
You got hoodwinked.
Okay, well, hold on. No, I didn't. Okay, hold on. Genshin Impact looks great. It looks amazing. It looks beautiful. I've always said that. So for him to make a real game is awesome.
For Mr. Genshin?
Right. Foam Stars made me facepalm so hard that it hurt. Like, it was right on brand.
Okay, well, we gotta talk about Star Rail for a second, dude. You
right.
can't just move on. I gotta ream you a little bit over this.
You go.
Alright, so Star Rail is a game that came out earlier this year, but it's only been playable on PC, iPhone, tablet, Android, that kind of a thing. But yes, it is made by the developers of Genshin Impact. It does have a similar free-to-play scheme, but I really like it. I've been playing it on my iPad the last few months, and it's definitely pulled some of my attention away from Genshin Impact. I enjoy its more, I don't want to say edgy or mature story, but I like that it respects the player's time a little more than Genshin Impact does. And visually, I like the space aesthetic, the sci-fi vibe that they're going for, and I like the overall, the main character and the party kind of go from one world to another, helping solve problems while also navigating a thread of their own fate.
Right.
Anyways, the fact that you were excited about it kind of gets me excited, and you should try it.
I was excited about Genshin Impact before I realized what it was.
Oh.
So, I mean, the gameplay, even the navigating and the art, everything looks
and it's
great.
Turn-based.
It looks an amazing game.
It's definitely
this is a turn-based game.
It is. Not Genshin.
Right.
Star Rail
That's
is.
what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah.
And that, for me, is a win.
And it's nice because there's no timer pressuring you to choose your next move.
Right.
You can take your sweet time.
That I will buy it just to support.
Well, you can't buy it because it's free.
I mean, oh shoot. Really?
Yeah.
Honkai is free?
Honkai Star Rail is coming out in like 2 or 3 weeks, completely for free.
Oh dang.
Yeah, you don't need to spend a penny to play through the story so far.
Oh wow. That's pretty cool.
I think I would love to see you check that out.
I think I will. Is it going to have microtransactions?
Of course, it uses the same scheme.
Genshin Impact.
To get, now again, you can earn premium currency through the game and get characters that way. You just won't get them as quickly as someone who spends a lot of money.
Oh. Yeah. Right, okay. That's, I mean, whatever. I'm going to play it just because it's
I say you should check it out, play the opening few hours. I think you'll be pretty impressed by it. But Foam Stars.
Foam Stars, like, this, okay.
Alright, speaking of Square Enix missteps, this is published, and I believe developed, by Square Enix. Now, this is their take on Splatoon.
It literally, like, their copy
Now,
of...
I'm a little more... optimistic for Foam Stars.
Okay.
I remember when it was first revealed this past summer, I was like, what the heck is Square Enix thinking? But I'm willing to open my mind to it a little bit. I've heard from some people who've played some betas and things like that, and they say it's actually not that bad. It's pretty fun. Now, if they can get people to actually sign up and play, I believe it's a free-to-play.
Well, I'd say it's probably fun because they totally cloned a fun game.
Yeah. I mean, what Nintendo does, everyone else tries to imitate eventually.
Right. And, I mean, I was totally getting, like, flashbacks from PlayStation All-Stars when I saw this.
Yeah.
And that, to me, was what it was.
Yeah. The music's pretty fire. Which Splatoon's music is also really, really good. Right. So I'm glad they're taking more inspiration from Splatoon. Although the music is different, I like that they're going for a really banging soundtrack. Visually, I think it looks interesting.
It does look good.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Foam...
Right,
it's foam, a little goofy.
Spraying foam everywhere, and then they have surfboards or something.
There's maybe some weird analogies you could take from that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to see how that develops.
Yeah.
But really, the big thing that the State of Play was really all leading up to...
Final Fantasy?
7 Rebirth.
Yes.
So the second game in the Final Fantasy Remake trilogy... is coming soon. I believe it's, what is it, February?
I didn't check.
It's early. It's early 2024. It's in the first quarter of 2024. And wow, I mean, I've complimented some people on their trailer making skills, but if anyone can cut a great trailer...
Oh, if anyone, Square Enix Cinematics team is the best in the world next to Blizzard.
Yeah, I was about to say, Blizzard gives them a run for their money, for sure.
Right.
but
it's those two. They're the best.
Yeah, nobody does in-house cinematics the way they do.
No.
I mean, it looks incredible, and not just the pre-rendered cinematics, but the in-game cutscenes, and just the.
I don't even know if any of it's pre-rendered anymore.
I mean,
I think it's all just
I don't know, that
an engine.
There might not be anything pre-rendered. I mean, it looks so good that you think it's pre-rendered.
Right. But I don't. Okay, so I'm gonna be honest. Despite how hardcore Final Fantasy I am, I haven't played through the first remake yet. Mainly because I got like 5 other Final Fantasy games that I'm still getting through.
Yeah,
I don't know who's in the first one. I don't know, but as soon as I saw Ketchi, I got super excited because he is one of like my 3 favorite characters in that franchise.
And I have a confession to make. I never played the original Final Fantasy VII.
Oh yeah, there's that.
So I mean, that's kind of a big confession, and so this is my first time experiencing a Final Fantasy VII game, and I know it's not the same Final Fantasy VII that came out years ago.
Yeah.
I'm aware that they've made some creative decisions, and I'm sure there's some intention behind it. And I'm excited to. This is one game that I am excited to read the discourse, and I do want to play quickly because I like seeing all the really hardcore Final Fantasy VII people dissecting every little thing and like wondering what this is inferring, what that's inferring, like what's changing, what's different, what's the same, and this is just absolutely brilliant on Square Enix's part, not to do a straight remake, but to do something different. And I don't know, somehow something tells me that this is still related to the original Final Fantasy VII, beyond just being like, oh, we're taking that as a base, but like, I don't know, I feel like they have some grand plan that we're not aware of yet.
Right. Yeah, you've mentioned that to me in person before. I can't really speak to that because I haven't played the remake.
Yeah, that's something you gotta fix.
I'm also gonna put it out there. I have a Final Fantasy VII tattoo on my chest.
Yeah.
So
you sound like a phony right now, dude.
I know.
You haven't even played
I feel really
yet.
guilty about it.
Was there anything else from the PlayStation State of Play that you wanted to touch on?
That was it. Baby steps. Oh yeah, Ghost Runner 2 looked really cool. Actually, I thought the aesthetic of it.
Ghost Runner 2.
Yeah.
Yes. That's like it's one of those ninja games.
It was but it's all high tech and red and black and glowy and a lot of self illumination maps in that game.
Gonna look sweet on an OLED TV for sure.
Yes. I don't know about the trailer. It didn't really tell you much, but and I don't know. I never played the first one.
Oh, I want to touch on Helldivers 2.
Oh yeah, that looked really cool.
Helldivers, way back on the PS3. Was it PS3 or I think it was PS3, right?
I think so.
They probably did a PS4 version eventually.
I'm thinking of a different game that was demoed on VR.
Helldivers 2, or the original Helldivers, was a PlayStation Plus game for PS3 and Vita, I want to say. And I think they probably eventually put out a PS4 version. And it was a really cool top-down co-op game, but like friendly fire was turned on, like always on by default. So you had to be really careful about where you were aiming and stuff. And it was a pretty fun game. It had like a live service element to it, before live service games were really a big deal. And I thought it was pretty cool. I played it for a handful of hours with a friend, and I did enjoy my time with it. So now I see Helldivers 2 is coming, and they are giving you a third person over the shoulder. Well, maybe not over the shoulder, but definitely you can control the camera, and it's like you're really on the battlefield now, and you're fighting against these weird alien insects. And it kind of gives me Earth Defense Force vibes. If you ever played any of those games,
there was a game that we demoed together on PSVR at E3, and it used the blaster, and it looked like that.
Yes.
And the aliens looked like that.
I know the game you're talking about.
I can't remember what it's called.
I actually think I have it in this room somewhere, still in its box, sealed. But yeah, it was like you were on Mars,
right?
And there were like insects and kind of weird things coming at you. I heard very good things about that game.
Yeah, the demo was pretty fun. Yeah. It was super easy, but it was fun. This game, I'm going to say, as someone who really just plays single-player games, the gameplay looks like it would be made for multiplayer. It looks like it would be silly to be played single player.
I don't even know that you can play.
You probably can't.
You probably are if you're not playing with friends, it probably matches you with people.
Yeah, right.
And I can only imagine if it was like sort of a pseudo live service game 10 years ago.
Right.
They're probably leaning even more heavily into that.
If I was into multiplayer, I would pick this game to play.
Okay.
But I'm not.
All right, well, other than that, Sony has one big game coming out pretty soon, Spider-Man 2, which is actually the third Spider-Man game in the Insomniac developed series. It takes place after the Miles Morales game that released alongside the PS5. And this game looks visually insane. I love the first two Spider-Man games. Swinging around New York is just... It's joyous. It reminds you of why games are fun.
Right.
It's just, it feels fantastic. I do wonder, I know they've added in some new traversal stuff into this game. You can kind of go like a flying squirrel kind of thing that you can do to get a little more precise with your movements, and if you want to land at a particular place or something. I am curious what Insomniac does to... I mean, this is the third game now featuring New York City. I know they've added in some new boroughs of the city that are available.
They said they doubled it. They doubled the size.
They doubled the size. Well, that's crazy then, because, I mean, it was massive to begin with. I mean, that was one of those games that I almost never used fast travel with.
Right.
Because it was
it's just
much
too fun to
swing
navigate
around. I was like, forget fast travel. I'll work my way up the city in 5 minutes,
Right.
And then you inevitably run into all kinds of little side things to do on your way there, and little collectibles to gather, and it's definitely a premier single-player game.
Right.
Like, if you like single-player games, you like finding little hidden treasures and collectibles and side quests, and you like completing it, it's definitely one of those games, but it's not overwhelming like, say, a lot of modern Ubisoft games are, where it's like your mini map has 30 different markers pointing in a different direction.
That's just overwhelming.
This is a lot more self-contained. At most you got a handful of markers, going.
Right.
But I enjoyed the first two immensely. I'm going to be picking this one up. I don't know if I'll grab it on day one. Ever since Sony's been charging $70 for their new games,
yeah, it doesn't.
I've been a little bit hesitant to pick anything. And this is primed for a Black Friday deal.
Right.
It's going to be $20
it's going to be a big
off.
release and stuff. Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like I can wait a little bit.
I feel like there's enough stuff to play in the meantime.
Oh yeah, man.
And wait for. But then when you do go buy it, new games are coming out that you're excited
right,
for.
so it's you have this...
Right.
You got to buy it and play it right away, or you might never play it ever.
Right.
Yeah. So that's definitely a concern. And that's something I think we're going to have to make a topic of one of these podcasts.
Oh, yeah.
Just the insane amount of releases, especially high quality, time demanding releases.
Right. The scope of the game is just 400 hours in some cases.
And how do you pick what to play, what not to play, especially when you're an adult with responsibilities.
And the Nintendo Direct had 30, 35 titles in it.
Yeah, I want to play 15 of them.
Right.
What am I supposed to do?
Right, exactly.
And I feel bad, when I ignore an indie game for a first party game, because it's tough. Anyways, I think we're over the 2-hour mark.
Oh yeah, we went long.
People are probably ready to listen to something else or go eat dinner. I know I'm ready for dinner.
Understandable.
So we just want to say thank you for joining us on our first episode.
Definitely.
We'll be back. I think we can both say we enjoyed this maybe.
Yeah, this
more
was
than
awesome.
We thought we would. So we'll see you next time.
Yep. Have a good one.
Have a good one.